Hi, this is video journal number 4, just political broadcasting, the rules, and specifically 5 points that should be known, discussed, and monitored by the program director, by a program director. Well, there's tons of points, and many of them sort of echo each other. But so I broke a good 5 here, maybe a little 6. The first thing is who's a legally qualified candidate. It's the first thing mentioned really here in the body, and there are different rules for federal and state. And well, actually, the interesting thing that occurred to me, ignore what I just said, is that once a candidate is legally qualified in 10 states for a federal race, they are automatically considered legally qualified in all 50. It's convenient, makes sense that you don't have to do it all over the place. Let's see. What else did I have about that? Oh, and also this is where they note the sort of special case candidates, like write-in candidates, and the definition of a legally qualified candidate can be a little flexible. It's not entirely written in steel, and like so many of the things, it's guidance from the FCC in determining whether a candidate has made the sufficient showing. Like, do they have an office? Do they have a staff? Do they buy ads elsewhere? Things like that. So yeah, it's still legally qualified candidate. That was the main thing. Then the second major point is when their uses are going to count. And here they spend a lot of time talking about bona fide news programs or news interview programs, but there are again, question in the FCC, there's subjectivity to it, it seems to me. And of course, then they talk about the lowest unit rates throughout the entire thing, which I think we all understand in class, that we understood when we discussed it in class. It's they play a uniform rate, and it's a discounted rate, and by they I mean any candidate in a particular race. And that's another emphasis. If you can just choose to cover the governor's race, then you have to get people from all parties that are running the governor's race. Doesn't mean you have to do lieutenant governor. That's interesting. Not something they would necessarily need. They would obviously know that, but. Okay, and of course, there's equal time and equal opportunities, which goes into sort of falls under the same umbrella as, excuse me, the use. Maybe that was wrong. And then the selling, the financial part of it. That's the third major point I want to think about. This again goes from this lowest union charges. And the way they phrase it here, they should consider, do I need to consider the political rules when I sell advertising packages early in the year with spots that may run for long periods of time, including during political windows? And it's emphatic yes as the answer. And I get that they explain that well, and it comes up again down here in that, since you're obligated to a discount rate then, and you really ought to think about that and sort of budget your advertising wisely, or allocation, wisely. Let's see. And so 3.5 to 4. Deciding which candidates can buy time. Again, it goes back to the reasonable access to, but that all candidates have reasonable access to similar quality slot bots, classes and day parts as they're broken down. And I can see how that could be a real jam. In fact, a lot of this sounds like it would have the program director scrambling on almost like a daily or weekly basis to make sure that they're balanced, that you got an A spot, and I think it's an ABC, they break it down classes, that you're trying to fill it, you can't cover them all, then like something happens and something gets missed, and now you've got to not only just replace the time, you've got to replace the class and the day part, which I imagine can jumble up your schedule because you only have so many day parts. The clock is ticking. And the reasonable access only applies to the Fed candidates. And again, this is something they would know, but something that was interesting to me. I thought that was that you have to think about those things when you see advertising and the differences between presidential election advertising and senator's advertising in a mayor's race. That wasn't very interesting. Oh, and this I thought was annoying. Would be annoying for a program director. They have to sell program length time or time in other units that they don't usually normal. They use like 7 minutes here, and I guess they really do. So it's been established in the courts that they can require access to program length time or even odd lengths of time, even if you don't normally sell them. So really, you're hopefully it wouldn't happen too much. You'd like to think that the advertisers also probably want to stay in a sort of standard, but odd lengths of time that could change your habits. You're probably very much used to working in certain segments of time, and now you've got an oddball thrown in there. That'll jumble you up. and these more financial issues, like how among them should they consider selling a federal candidate less time? So I guess so you're not obligated to do so much matching. They seem to discourage that. It seems something that would have to be considered on a case by case basis. Okay, and then another, I highlighted this 5, but it really comes back to the treating competing candidates alike, equal opportunities, and that includes the not only the exempt programming, but the fleeting image notion, as well as the, like they use the example of Donald Trump and The Apprentice. There's times that you're going to appear anyway, not just in a news context, but somehow you're going to appear. Does that necessarily trigger inequality? Not really. I remember sort of, I think it was what Jack Kemp was running. So that would probably be in the 80s or 90s. I think he was a sports commentator, and that briefly came up in one of my classes. I don't know if it was high school or college, but we talked about that. Like, with that, I don't even remember what class it was. Anyway, it's an issue, obviously, that comes and goes because celebrities often do get into politics and people who appear in movies. Yeah, and here we are with the use. The positive or neutral. That's interesting, and it makes sense. I like the way they explained it. Just that if I do an attack ad against you, then I shouldn't get equal time because with your face on the screen. I have 30 minutes calling you, or 30 seconds calling you a jerk. Then, even though it's your face on the screen for 30 seconds, I shouldn't then get 30 more seconds matching time to tell, what a great guy I am. That's obligation. And again, these are things these guys would know, but have to have thought about in the past, for sure. Okay, we've got that. That was my last. Okay, and this is the last one. I think I'm number 6 by now. And it's about both the censorship. And I thought it was interesting that because a broadcaster cannot censor the message, and they get really specific about it, that unless it's truly obscene or otherwise unacceptable through Federal Election Commission law, as opposed to the FCC as well, they can say whatever they want. Yeah, and even if it offends you, I can imagine if you're a Christian a gospel station and someone wants to go in there and have a totally off the wall to you, like totally opposing view to you, and you might be like, yeah, God, really? Do I have to listen to this crackpot? I mean, then, well, you kind of do. And interesting in this, it only applies to broadcast material because but if they choose to stream it, the no censorship rule does not apply. So I think to me it's interesting. It's one of the odd times that that the internet has less freedom in a matter like this than broadcast. Okay, I've got other things exercise here, but again, the censorship is a very long section of and about rules and what applies, what doesn't apply. And then there's the liabilities thing. Anyway, I am going to wrap it up. I did find it interesting. It is long, but I will hold on to it because, like I said, it circles back a few times on the same issues. So I bet this will probably be handy in the future for various quizzes, tests, or just general knowledge. So I hope that meets the requirements for the assignment. Thank you.